You wake up and, almost without thinking, reach for your phone. There's a message waiting from someone who gets under your skin. You read it once, then again, and suddenly you're already annoyed. It's strange how easily a day can start going wrong without anything particularly bad happening. One comment stays with you. You keep checking your phone even though you know you shouldn't. You start thinking about things that haven't happened yet. And before you realize it, your mind is somewhere else entirely. Almost 2,000 years ago, a Roman emperor understood this problem better than most people who've ever lived with far less power and far more free time. His name was Marcus Aurelius, and he ruled an empire that stretched from Britain to the Middle East. But the writing he left behind wasn't a record of conquests. It was a private notebook, never meant for anyone else to read, in which he kept talking himself back into the right frame of mind. He seemed to know something worth remembering, that the biggest threat to a good day wasn't his enemies. It was his own mind, left to drift. So each morning, before dealing with anyone else, Marcus rehearsed a kind of preparation. He reminded himself he'd meet people who were jealous, ungrateful, or dishonest, not because the world was cruel, but because that's what happens when people act without understanding. His answer wasn't to brace for a fight, not control your emotions, not stay positive. Just come back to reason and use it like a compass. Think about what a compass actually does. It doesn't stop the storm. It doesn't clear the terrain or silence the wind. A hiker caught in fog still feels lost, still cold, still uncertain. But the needle keeps pointing the same direction regardless of how many times the hiker has spun around. The compass doesn't remove the confusion. It gives you something reliable to return to inside it. That's what reason was for Marcus. Not a shield against feeling, but a needle he kept checking. And notice how often he had to check it. He wrote himself a note not to waste what time he had, left worrying about people he couldn't control. Because worry is just walking in circles, burning daylight, without moving anywhere. He warned himself that whatever thoughts he let repeat, day after day, would eventually become the shape of his own mind. That's not really a metaphor about willpower. It's closer to a warning about erosion. Water doesn't carve a canyon in one storm. It does it by returning to the same path again and again. Thoughts work the same way. Elsewhere, he told himself to keep his attention fixed on the task directly in front of him, not the 10 tasks after it, not the ones from yesterday. Just this one. Reason, used this way, isn't about thinking harder. It's about narrowing the aperture, so the mind has one true thing to hold on to instead of scattering across everything at once. Then, further into the notebook, there's a line that's almost funny in how blunt it is. This is a reminder. That's it. No elaborate argument. Just a nudge, written to himself, because he already knew the mind drifts, his own included, and that the only real fix isn't some permanent breakthrough. It's returning, over and over, the way you'd glance down at a compass on a long walk. We don't have empires to run, but we do have inboxes, group chats, comment sections, and a dozen small provocations before lunch. The instinct is to think the goal is some final state. Total calm, total control, never getting pulled off course again. But that was never the promise. Even Marcus, writing this to himself and no one else, needed the reminder daily. The goal was never arriving. It was the returning. By the time he closed the notebook, near the very end, he was still saying the same thing he opened with. Keep the mind clear, act with justice, accept what happens, speak the truth. Maybe that's the real use of reason, not an achievement you unlock, but a compass you're willing to keep pulling out of your pocket every single time you notice you've drifted. Not because you'll stop drifting, but because you'll always know which way to walk back.